Hi guys, a very warm welcome to you today to the first ever video from my brand new YouTube channel, Lauren Levels Up. I'm super excited to talk to you today. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so I'm not going to do a huge long introduction for you today. I will briefly introduce myself, but other than that we will get straight into the makeup. So to start with, obviously I am Lauren. I'm originally from the UK, as you can probably tell by my accent, but I now live in the sunny island of Mallorca in Spain, something for which I feel incredibly lucky. I am a professional makeup artist, and the bulk of my work here includes weddings, and then a few fashion bits and pieces and other photo shoots in between that. I do have more of a perhaps natural glam style of work, as opposed to a lot of the very, very strong Instagram looks you will see a lot of nowadays. So from me in the future, you will see more of a pared down version of those types of looks. Something a little bit more wearable, I think I would probably like to call it. So I am hoping to be uploading twice a week in the near future, but for now it will just be once a week on a Wednesday. I hope to get to know you guys better along this journey, but for now I will just be sharing with you this look, which is my everyday glam look, I suppose you could call it. This is the look I will wear when I want to look polished and put together, but when I'm not necessarily going to any kind of special occasion. So perhaps I'm going for some lunch with some friends, or perhaps I'm meeting a client, something along those lines. So if you think you might want to know how to achieve this look through all of the products, techniques and little tips and tricks that I'll share with you along the way and in future videos, then please stay with me.
So as you can see, this is my makeup-free face. I hear a lot of people apologising for their bare faces. You won't hear that from me. Come on, girls. At the end of the day, this is the face my mother gave me. This is the face my ancestors gave me. This is the face that nature, God, whatever you believe in, saw fit to give me. So I guess I feel a bit like, who am I to question that? And also, let's not look like everybody else. Let's look like ourselves. So let's just pop my hair out of the way, ready for this tutorial. And I'm starting off with skincare and the Pixie Rose Tonic. This is one of my favourites for calming down any redness and any sensitivity. So I'm just popping a few drops of that into my clean hands and pressing it all over my face and neck areas, before I then move on to moisturising. This is the Embryolisse Lait Creme Concentrate, which is a really, really nice hydrating moisturiser that provides a great base for our makeup, but at the same time is providing that really, really kind of enough of a slippy texture for the makeup to go onto. It's non-greasy, so this is a really, really nice formula for applying makeup over the top. So I'm just applying that to my face and neck. Next up, with eye cream, I'm applying the Body Shop Vitamin E eye cream, and probably about a pea-sized amount of that onto my under eye area, and then I'll also take it up onto the upper eye area as well. This is a really, really nice formula. Again, it just provides hydration, ready for applying makeup over the top. And for lip balm, I'm just using the Urban Decay Lip Love. Again, just providing a really nice base for any lip makeup that we're going to apply, because we need that area to be nice and hydrated. Normally I wear SPF. This is the Thank You Pharma SPF 50, but not today because I'm not going out. The Laura Geller Colour Correctors is the first step in my actual makeup prep. And here you can see me applying the green shade just in really localized areas, specifically to those red areas. So any spots or pimples, anything like that. I have a few little acne scars from a period of bad skin as well. And here you can just see me blending it in with my finger into the skin. I also suffer with quite a lot of redness around my nose area, and you will always see me applying this green colour corrector to try and keep the Rudolph effect at bay. I think my nose will pretty much go red at any opportunity it can. One of my all-time favourites, Tarte Shape Tape. This is in the shade Light Medium Sand, which is the perfect peachy undertone to cover up any dark circles. I do suffer quite badly with this. You can't see it all that well in the video, but I do definitely need to use a peach-toned colour corrector under my eyes just to neutralise any of those blue or purple tones. The only reason I'm not using the one from the Laura Geller pot is purely just because it's a much deeper tone, which is better for the summertime or for deeper skin tones. It is winter here at the moment in Spain, so I'm looking a little bit pasty, so we just need the Tarte Shape Tape instead. For foundation, I am using the Urban Decay All Nighter and Naked Skin foundations. Please don't judge my stained beauty blender, I promise you it is clean. So I'm mixing those two foundations on the back of my hand. The warmth just helps them to mix together a lot easier. The reason I'm mixing them is not only because I want to get the correct colour match for my skin. I do always mix my foundations to get an exact match. I tend to find that I can't always use one foundation and get the right colour match. But the other reason I'm mixing them is to get the right texture. I want the coverage provided by the All Nighter foundation. This is really pigmented. It's a great foundation, but it does have a very matte finish. So I need to add some of the Naked Skin foundation to give it more of a glow. Just dotting it onto my face here in all of the areas that I need it. And then I will go ahead and blend it away with my damp beauty blender. Always damp, please, never dry. And I will basically just continue kind of patting this all over my face and then working it into the skin, down my jawline, backwards onto my ears, never forget the ears, and across my eyelids as well, just to create a base for any shadow we might use later on. And then here you can see me just continuing that onto the other side of my face. The reason that I tend to work on my face in sections rather than applying it all over, as we often see other beauty influencers rather I should say, is purely because I think maybe I just work slower than other people. And if I'm using the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation, I don't want it to set on my skin before I get to blending it out. So basically I tend to just apply it to either cheek and then to my forehead and go ahead and blend those away in sections. Here I'm just applying that to any areas of my face where I think I might need a tiny bit of extra coverage. So that tends to be just at the sides of my face there. And I will use whatever's left on the sponge just to blend down onto my neck as well. And again, just repeating this on the other side just to even everything up and make everything look balanced. Now this tip I'm going to show you here is something that really helps to make your makeup look as flawless and as blended into the skin as possible, and that is taking your damp beauty blender after you've applied your foundation and pushing everything into the skin. Spend a minute or so doing this and you will see a difference. The makeup will look much more homogeneous with the skin. Here I am just applying a little bit of concealer, just spot concealing in areas where I need a little bit of extra coverage, but it's basically where those little areas of blemishes, where any little scars, anything like that the foundation hasn't covered straight away. But to be honest, the Urban Decay foundation is that pigmented that it covers most things really. This is me just being a little bit picky. Moving on to brightening the under eye area, I'm using Tarte Shape Tape again, but this is in the shade Fair Neutral. So this is just going to brighten the under eye area and provide a little bit of extra coverage in that area. So I'm just putting it on with my fingers. I'm only using a small amount and then just blending it away again with my beauty blender. And then here you can just see me popping a little bit of that onto the centre of my forehead. And I will then, whatever's left on the sponge, just blend down onto the bridge of my nose as well. I will also apply that same product on the high points of my Cupid's bow. This will just give us a really nice bright base to apply any of the highlight products that we may or may not use onto. And it also just gives them something to adhere to as well. And then a really, really flattering effect, kind of a spotlight lighting effect on the face if you just add a little bit of that bright concealer to the hollow of the chin as well. This can just look really, really flattering, particularly in photography as well. And just making sure everything's blended away with my finger. Onto the fabulous Hourglass Translucent Veil Powder. This is what I use to set all of the areas that you've just seen me add that bright concealer to. And it's quite a specific way that I tend to apply this. And again, this is a key step, I think, in achieving a really flawless base. I'm using my damp beauty blender. I've popped a little bit of that product into the lid. I've wiped up most of the excess, so there's barely any product on the sponge. And I'm pressing it firmly into those areas where we applied the bright concealer. So under the eyes, centre of the forehead, on the top of the lip, and then also on the chin. And not only does this help to set, but it helps to further brighten and really smooth out the texture. For the peripheral areas of my face, I like to use also an Hourglass powder. This is the Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Dim Light. This has more of a satin finish to it, which is really, really nice basically for the outside areas of the face where I perhaps don't want everything to look quite so matte as the centre of the face, but still making sure that makeup is all set in place, including our eyelids. Moving on to contour, I use the Bahama Mama powder from The Balm. You can see I've hit pan on this. I do love it a lot. And I'm just using a small fluffy angled brush to apply this to the sides of my forehead. I don't have a very tall forehead, so I don't need to apply that right to the centre of the top of my hairline. When it comes to my cheek contour, I imagine a line between the top of my ear and the corner of my mouth, and very softly at first, just start to apply that product, beginning at the back towards my ear, and then moving forwards down to the corner of my mouth. And then also just contouring my jaw. I do tend to take my contour all the way back to underneath my ear. I tend to find that sometimes this area can get left out, and when it looks a totally different colour and texture to the rest of the makeup, it's often a very visible area, so I think this can actually contribute to the makeup looking unnatural if we avoid using this area. So again, just contouring that cheek from the corner of the top of my ear down to the corner of my mouth, but keeping most of that product concentrated towards the back of my cheekbone, as naturally this is where they would be the most shadow. And just contouring again up to just maybe to the highest point of my forehead, I suppose. Now, this is a very quick and easy everyday tutorial, or as quick and easy as it can be for me as a perfectionist. So I'm continuing to contour my nose just ever so slightly, not with a huge amount of product, but I'm taking that all the way up to the inside corner of my eyebrow, a little bit onto the underneath, and then I will also take a tiny bit of that product just on the kind of above the tip of my nose, and this will just help to lift the shape of the nose, particularly if we apply highlighter to that later. Just to deepen up the cheekbone contour, I'm going to use the Barry M Chisel Cheeks palette, and don't panic, but I am going to use the darkest shade here, and I'm going to use the tiniest bit of it mixed in with the Bahama Mama powder. So a couple of dips in of the balm, and then I will add a tiny bit of the dark powder, wipe most of it off onto the back of my hand, then using a further light touch, apply that starting only towards the very back of the same contour area that we applied the Bahama Mama powder to. And then as most of that product gets distributed onto the skin, slowly moving down towards the corner of the mouth. And then just whatever's left on the brush, take that into our other contour areas. And this just basically helps to deepen that contour further, particularly if, like me, you have a slightly rounder face and you want to create a more contoured look. For blush, I'm using the Revolution Pro palette in Sugar and Spice, and just using those two very neutral shades, starting with the lighter shade. I do like to layer my blush. I just think this gives the most natural and blended effect. So I'm starting off applying the lighter colour in stippling motions, as you can see here. Then I'll move into mixing those two colours, and as you can see, it's slightly more of an intense, vibrant colour. And then just to create the last step in that kind of level of vibrancy, I suppose, I'm just using the brighter colour and I'm stippling it on in upward motions backwards towards my temples. For highlight, I'm using the NYX Born to Glow palette, and I'm going to use this kind of pinky champagne-y colour here, which I tend to find the best for everyday use, as it's the most natural of all of the colours in that palette. The colour payoff is still very good though, as you will see in a moment. So using a Real Techniques powder brush, I'm just very, very gently applying that to the high points of my cheeks, just above where we applied that blush. And you can see how intense that highlight really is when I put it on that cheekbone. So just putting that on all of the high points of my face, including the nose and above the brows. Now, I did say this was an everyday makeup. This must be the easiest way to apply eyeshadow ever. I'm using that same Bahama Mama powder, and I'm using the same brush I used to apply it, and I am just swiping that colour basically all over the eyelid, up into the crease in tiny circular motions using that brush. All we're doing by doing this is putting some depth and dimension back into the eye socket area, because we did flatten it a little bit by adding the foundation and the powder over the top. And then just to intensify that a little bit further and add more dimension, I'm just taking a fluffy crease brush, the same powder again, and just intensifying the colour in the outer V. I will work it slightly more into the inner corner as well, but generally concentrating that colour on the outer third of the eye for the most flattering effect possible. Here you can see me just repeating the same on the other side, and then I will just blend that outwards towards the tail of the brow as well. And it just really helps, particularly if you have a deep set eye like me, just to flatter the eye shape. To further define the eye area, but in a natural way, we're taking again the same dark shade that we used from the Chisel Cheeks palette. And I'm intensifying the base of my lashes in the lower lash line. So towards the outer corner, I have actually applied that just below the lashes. And then in the centre of the eye, I've applied it fractionally above the lashes. And what this helps to do is, if you have round eyes like me, just ever so slightly closes up the eye shape and elongates it at the same time. And then in the top lashes, I'm just applying that same colour right into the base of the lashes, just wiggling back and forth just to create some extra definition. And then to lift the eye shape with the same powder, I'm just adding a very, very slight wing. So this will help to, again, elongate the eye shape. But because I do have slightly downturned eyes, this just helps to lift that eye shape up. For brows, you guessed it, I'm going to be using that same powder again. It's that close to my natural hair colour that it's the perfect neutral brown dark shade. And I am sort of sticking to the natural shape of my own brows, really. I'm just filling in any areas where there are gaps, any areas where the hairs are more sparse, slightly elongating the tail of my brow. And then by the time I get to that inner corner of the brow, there's barely any product on the brush. So it kind of creates more of an ombre effect, and I think it just looks a little bit more natural, that's all. So for brows, really, I like to just stick to their natural shape and then comb them through afterwards, just to pull all of that product through evenly. So now you may have noticed that my hair is quite straight. This is natural, and including my lashes that are also naturally very, very straight. I am going to do a separate tutorial on how I keep my lashes curled and keep them curled all day. But very short, you'll see me here curling my lashes quite a lot, and then my favourite mascara to use in order to keep them curled is the Too Faced Better Than Sex waterproof mascara. I do think that the waterproof formula of this is key to keeping the lashes curled, and I think that's purely because the drying effect of some of the, well, quite a lot of waterproof formulas actually, is what helps to keep the curl in place rather than letting the lashes drop down. And then for my lower lashes, just adding a little bit there, whatever's left on the brush. I tend not to overload my lower lashes just because these really do open up the eye if you draw attention to them, and I don't want to make my eyes look any rounder than they already are. Now, those of you who follow me on Instagram will know that my go-to everyday lip is a pinky nude. So here you'll see me applying the NYX Suede Matte Lip Liner in the shade Los Angeles. This is a perfect neutral pinky brown tone that just provides a really natural definition to the lip line, and also helps if you want to contour your lips in any way as well. So here you can just see me lining the outside of my lips, and I do very, very slightly overline my top lip just to balance it with the bottom as it's a little bit smaller. Here I am applying the Kiko Milano Gossamer Emotion lipstick. I believe it's in the shade 301, but I'm going to check that and I will leave it in the info box for you below, but it's the perfect pinky nude. So this is basically how you could leave it if you wanted to leave it quite natural. I do tend to go in and just sort of touch up that top lip liner just to give it a more of a defined effect. And then on days when I'm feeling a little bit extra, I do tend to add lashes and a little bit of gloss to this look. As you will see here, I'm wearing the Ardell Demi Wispies and a little bit of the Body Shop lip shine as well. I really hope you found this tutorial useful and enjoyed watching, and I will see you very, very soon in my next video.